Thursday, Friday, we're back up to 30 degrees again, so it is going to be roasting next weekend. And I don't think we're casting next weekend, so we're in the clear. We get to avoid and try and keep ourselves nice and cool.
Yeah, I think.
In fact, no, I'm casting on Saturday. No. I spoke too soon.
Ah, yes, you swap. I've just brought up my calendar as you said that, and I thought, well, I'm not casting on Saturday, so that could be a problem for me. Or I didn't think I was.
It turns out you are.
I think you swapped it. You swapped today, I think.
Is this where you agreed to the trade with them or something? I have properly screwed myself over here, haven't I?
To a trade with M, I think.
God,
and that's why you're doing the 12th.
Well, I'm going to enjoy cooking alive, Tim, while you enjoy being in a swimming pool somewhere, staying nice and cool with a pina colada. Can't wait. Anyway, our game is underway and we're good to go. Cafe is restarting. I'm not quite sure what the mix-up was, but things have been sorted and redressed now. Bans coming out are quite interesting in Italy, seeing that castle ban that's becoming quite popular, especially against top teams that like to make a lot of use of castle. I've seen it being directed against them. The mirror also the same. And once again, I want to say that we saw this the other day, a gridlock ban coming out in place of something like a nomad. So nomad being let through, but the gridlock bans are starting to grow in number, Tim.
I think I found your mistake, guys.
What's that then?
I don't think there are any games on the 12th.
Oh, is this the one that got cancelled and I missed it because it's sandwiched between a bunch of other events?
I think it's the one where we had the wrong date, yeah.
Get in! Cancelled.
There you go, you see? You don't need to worry about the heat wave anymore.
I'm definitely not casting on the 13th, so we've got a spa day.
But Loud, you still need to worry about getting this one.
Having a massage and everything.
They're going to massage and everything. They're going to go into... It's funny that we're covering SAL. I had a great massage in Sao Paulo. I think you did as well, actually, in the hotel.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I came out feeling like I had a new back. It was fantastic.
We went back for another one soon, mate, because how you hit 40, I'm sure that one's knackered as well.
I was going to say it lasted for all of about 3 hours, but it felt great afterwards. Right, let's get into it. We're going to be up on the top floor. It's Furia on the defence to start with. You feel that Loud just need a really good start. A couple of rounds here. They've gone to a map that is a surprise for us. They normally ban it out. It kind of suggests that they're keeping it, that they're saving it for a big game, which this is. Are they going to deliver a performance here, or are we going to come away saying, yeah, they probably should have banned it out as usual? We'll find out over the next few rounds, but that's why I say they need to come in and make a statement at the beginning.
I mean, the statement could be in the form of the Rara, Tim. I'm very interested to see what the game plan is here, because as remarked, you don't come to this map, one of your worst maps, against Furia, one of their best maps, without a game plan when Lair was on the table, which is a map that both teams quite enjoy. They've definitely come in with a game plan, and I think you're going to see some really cool set-piece executes and very, very niche defenses that they'll have in mind to deal with this. And already you can see one of those Raras coming out here. I imagine that was onto the double cigar doorway. Now angling themselves off towards the bathroom side to put some pressure on, and sure enough, one's fell. They almost get 3 kills off the back of it, Tim. I tell you what, if they got those 3 kills, we'll be having a big conversation right now. They've found 2 already, on for a third potentially, as Nade and KZ are both dangerously low. They've figured them out in this round.
Yeah, they really have. Taking Herds out after he juiced himself up was real good value. KZ, however, has something to say. It's Felipox on a run out, though, that really does some damage. Dafo's down to half health, and we find ourselves all of a sudden in a 2v2, and that is the danger of playing against Furia. You can feel like you're on top, but you're not always. Perez manages to get Nade, though, 2 versus 1. Look how low he is, though. Dafo hardly any health as well, but the nade is going to take Felipox out.
Well. They have cooked in that first round, Tim. They've walked in there with a game plan and executed it brilliantly. And a lot of it came off the back of Perez on his charge towards Pixel. On that Blackbeard, shield at face, has charged on forward, along with pressure coming in. The key things that they did, Casey, for example, was the White Stairs player in that round. He's getting pressured from God knows how many places. One, we've had Lumber smoked off, so he can't challenge on towards Pixel to support his teammate. You've got Dafo and Bassetto both on the window, trying to challenge him from White Window. You've got STK, who's on the Rara, also playing on the White Corridor window. There's just like no ability for him to do anything except die in the spots that he stood in. It was a wonder that he managed to stay on 1 HP for as long as he did. But even with that smoked off, it meant there was very little support to be able to stop Perez from marching towards Pixel, killing 2 players and completely breaking that round wide open. You might look at it and say, okay, it's lucky that he got 2 kills, but the fact there was no damage coming back the other way tells you that Loud completely caught Furia by surprise then. And as I said, I think you're going to see more of that throughout this half. They're going to have some nasty surprises in store for Furia. Great stuff.
certainly was a plan, and it got them the result that they wanted. 1-0, and we are going to see Furia move on. Quite a common thing now. Win or lose, teams will just move on to the next site, and we used to have it much more frequently that they would give it another go on the same site, try and get it done, try and make those alterations, but honestly, I think this way is better. Mentally, it's just a fresh start every single round then, and you're not thinking about that last round that you've just lost. So, Furia go down to the kitchen. Loud up to the top, says that they're going to go for that vertical clearance. They've got live on the book, so they've got the utility that they need to open up those verticals and start moving the defenders around. Just having a look, it's going to be Herds playing inside of VIP. Didn't know whether it would be the Tubarão or the Smoke, but it is in this case going to be the Tubarão. No shields on side, so much the same as I said earlier on tonight about holding that VIP position. Should be reasonably straightforward to deal with.
Sure, I mean, the first call comes on, so the first scan comes on from Daffo, and they start their march on forwards. And straight away, that drone is there as bait. It's STK on the window to find another. At least now we're trying to see Furia being a bit proactive about this. They are trying to hold more dangerous positions against the side of Loud. Of course, you just saw there the Yokai's going outside too. They're trying to capitalize, but everywhere they look, there is drones at their feet, Tim, making it hard for too much ability to be exercised in the round, and they'll find themselves getting their head bit off. They're not too careful.
Yeah, the switch players around in VIP as well. KZ moved in to allow Herds to aggress up White Stairs. He was taken out, but it leaves the Smoke in position of VIP, which is probably a little bit more familiar to us. You can use those Toxic Babe canisters then into Freezer to try and deny the drop from the hatch or a push in to try and get a plant there. But we are a little ways away from that. Just looking at the positioning of all of the Loud attackers, they are up on the top floor at the moment, apart from Baseto that we've got in front of us here, just looking in through Bakery Door. But it means just a bit of time being taken to get themselves into position to start opening up the ceilings above these defenders.
It's also checking out where the defenders are. They're trying to account for every single one. That they know the nade is inside Bakery. They know that KZ's playing on white. They were looking for Felipox. They found him inside of sight. So now really it's JB that's currently sat on front door that is maybe the main point of concern for them. But like you say, once they've got the verticals angled up and they've got the utility starting to rain out, as we're seeing now, this is when the push can start. In comes the blast and they try for a swing, but no! They've got everything accounted for at this point, Tim. It doesn't seem to matter what they throw at them.
Nade was in a horrible position then, just players stacking up on both sides of him. 5 versus 2. Daffo gets picked up as well to maintain that numbers advantage. JV92, the first time I say his name in the game is for him to be taken out. Perez with a double, a flawless round. Loud should have been playing Cafe all along, Des.
I tell you what, Tim, it's like I was saying, they do not come to this map without a master plan specifically to counter Furia. And they're making it look so... There's a couple of moments in this where Furia have looked... how can I say it? Very lost in themselves. The Echo there, for example, granted, you're being pressured from the south. You got a pressure coming into North Bay. You got no idea where they are. He saw the gun barrel of the player inside Small Bay, but just could not get the kill off onto him in time. I think probably panicked himself and had to look away to deal with other pressure coming in. But just when it looks like Fury are showing a little bit of aggression, they're dealing with the occasional drone, they're challenging onto White Stairs, they're getting intel from the Yokai drones. They're just getting chewed up and spat out by Loud, who... I love their play, specifically coming down red. That smoke off on towards Small Bake was what really isolated the Echo there. He had no ability to get any kind of support from anybody, and it doesn't matter what Furia seem to do. There is always a second or third Loud player ready to pick up the pieces and get a freebie. Again, that reminder, that was a flawless round out of Loud. They have executed that to perfection.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful stuff. Just dealt with absolutely everything. Just in position, just all of the Fury players were just in lose-lose situations. There was just nothing that any of them could do. It was great stuff. And Loud, I always think back to that E1 roster, you know, the stage that they played as E1, and they just came in and surprised everybody with, they did things a little bit differently, a little bit more aggressive. They played without a care of who they were up against, and they are looking like that today. Absolutely phenomenal first 2 rounds. We move into round 3. Nitro goes out. Live is ready for it. He's going to keep himself out of the way. No damage done. That is a big bit of utility gone. And round 3, I think, is going to see us in a reading room defense.
All right. I imagine at this point, Fury is starting to have conversations like, oh, God. When's the next bulldozer coming through the window? Like, what's happening now? What are we about to get slapped around by? Because, Tim, you might point it in and say it's down to the shield, but I'm seeing Bassetto running around on that fuse. And I'm thinking to myself, knowing how Loud have played those first 2 rounds, there's no way they haven't picked up all 5 of these operators for a very specific purpose. They've got a game plan in mind again. You might see Live getting in below and trying to make use of that soft destruction through Kitchen, for example, if we're going to try and be a little bit creative about this. But the options they've got to play with are going to be absolutely bonkers. In fact, you've already got STK downstairs inside a Kitchen. Look at the bottom left corner of your screen. He's down on the first floor, whilst everyone else is focused on the top floor right now, including the defenders. Very interesting.
Also worth pointing out that in those first 2 rounds, Perez is now 6-0. 4 kills in the first round, 2 kills in the second, an EPS of 282 after the first 2 rounds. So going
Might be taking the piss a bit there, isn't he?
I think he could be. FURIA need to do a little bit of something about that. Maybe just remind him who he is playing against exactly. They know that there's one inside a barback storage. This army is just dipping in between Freezer and the Kiba barricades. Perez, make it 7-0, steps around, gets the kill onto Nid, and that is again advantage Loud. 3 rounds, 3 entry kills. Could it be 3 on the scoreboard?
I want to say that was too easy there. I'm pretty sure Live saw him on a drone. It's as simple as stepping across and getting the freebie. However, Daffo didn't quite have the back line covered inside the red stairs, and that's when Philippox has walked up and found himself a freebie. Hard Breacher, has gone offline. Not the end of the world for this site, but I'm pretty sure you'd still rather have your top fragging player alive and on the field.
Yeah, it's certainly not the end of the world, but as you say, it's not ideal either. They're starting to get that top floor control. They've got 3 up there at the moment. Just looking to chase anybody else away. I think everybody, yes, has been pushed away for FURIA. So they can start with the verticality. We're going to have the fuse charges going out. That's looking to clear utility and force players away. STK...
So
I don't know whether he's expecting a Roma down there or whether he's hoping to... Yeah, whether he's hoping to surprise them late. I don't know.
In this case, they've been took down by Philippox, who has been a little bit too mobile for their own good, and he won't really be able to offer too much for them. I think very late round there, STK tried to explode up red stairs, but it was just a little bit too late. That definitely says to me, though, they've watched how FURIA play this. They've seen them play C4 denials before, and that's what they're trying to account for. But Philippox there, rather than heading downstairs to try and make a C4 play happen, has kept himself on that second floor and just engaged directly. So a small change here. Maybe FURIA reading, okay, what is it that we typically do? How do we change that to be a little bit different here so they can't read into it? Has yielded a round win for them.
Yeah, Loud struggled to really get going in that round. There was a good couple of minutes of not much happening. They got top floor, couple of fuse charges down, but they were just left with a shield drop to try and put the diffuser down at the end, and didn't really have significant enough control to be able to complete that execution. So unfortunately for Loud, they lose one out. FURIA get themselves back in the running, managed to lock down their third choice site. It's going to lead them back to the first, which is up on top floor. I may disagree with FURIA about that, especially if they lose it again here in round 4. We've got the additional bans have come on in. As Army and Blackbeard, we've seen both. I mean, we know that they're both really powerful, but we've seen both used. We've seen both used to great effect so far in this matchup, so no surprises whatsoever in the specific context of this game to see those 2 taken away.
All right, then, let's see what other madness they can cook up in this round. The Raura is making a return once again for Perez, so stepping away from being on that Habana for this round at the very least into round 4. You've got the Capital being brought along too. I'm seeing, of course, once more the Nomad here, and that Lion stepping forward for a little bit more control. But you see a Raura, Tim, you're not just bringing it along to drop onto random doorways and windows. She's always there because you've got an execute in mind. So once more, it's on FURIA to be the one to try and trip up Loud in the early round, or at the very least, have a response when the execute comes through, but that's going to be very difficult. What I will give to Loud is their droning has been excellent so far. They've checked every single position when it comes around to an execute. It's hard when players like Philippox are always on the move, and it's hard to tie them down. But when they've known the general positions that players are in, they've always been able to react very well in setting up crossfires or crunching down those players, something pretty spectacular.
Trying to send a Rotero drone in just to clear that barbed wire underneath the skylight. Not often that we see a skylight drop, but certainly something that FURIA have got their base covered for. The Rotero drone wasn't successful in taking out the utility. We saw it shot out before it could be detonated. So for the time being, Furia's defense will remain in that position. Interesting to note as well, the gridlock being one of the earlier bans coming in from Furia from the beginning of this. But we've seen a couple of important flank moments, particularly in that last round for Leapok's able to move up the stairs and challenge onto Perez, take him out. So definitely the bans having a direct impact on some of these rounds.
Sure. There's two bonkers at least to start things out. At least one player started themselves around red, and Leapok seems somewhat aware of that. The scan comes on through, momentarily pinned down, but here he is sniffing around red. And I tell you what, he hasn't even seen Live there. And Live has got in with an absolute freebie because I believe yet again he was sponsored by spotted by
droning.
Sponsored by drone racing, apparently. No, spotted from a drone that was sat at the top of Brown Stairs.
SDK manages to pick up Herds 5 versus 3 now, and
So
Loud looking great inside this round. As you say, they're just aware of everything that Furia are doing or are going to do, and they take full advantage of it. KZ does manage to take out Daffo. That's going to be the Nomad gone, but the air jabs will be deployed by now, so not a huge loss for the side of Live. They do need to be cautious of this angle from Pixel. JV has to dip back out of that fight. He's only half health as well, so definitely needs to watch himself.
I respect it because they know that SDK has been holding this angle. It's how they managed to get rid of Herds early. They need to re-challenge this. They can't sit back and give all these angles away for free. Nade's going to find Perez as well, who was stepping his way, I believe, in towards Bar at that point, has exposed himself to the cocktail player and now paid the price for it. They are getting challenges back from Furia, but now we're down to a 2 versus 3. It feels like Furia should be able to walk away the winner, and here we go. KZ on walkabouts. He wants to get rid of STK.
Yeah, Furia have been so cool and calm throughout this round. Look at that, beautiful stuff from KZ in behind the cigar shop counter. And that is going to be all as the time ticks down. The job is done, dropping the diffuser inside a bar. It was two things that happened. Basetto came in on the Capitao and was downed and dropped the diffuser, but at the same time, Perez was taken out on the Raura, as you said, moving into bar. They were obviously primed to try and go for that plant. They wanted the Raura in to close off the doorways, to give them access to the plant spot, and they just couldn't get it done loud. There was a plan there, there was a scheme, there was a strategy, but Furia just put a stop to it.
The key thing that went wrong there, and it's a bit of unfortunate timing for Perez more than anything else, he stepped out to challenge Nade, who was sat inside a cocktail. At the, basically, I won't say exact, it was about a second and a half later, we heard a smoke grenade go off, and that smoke grenade went down in the middle of bar. That was designed to cut off the angle from Nade being able to challenge. So KZ, who's inside of storage, is completely pinned, because you had Live about to rotate over towards the east windows, take over the spot where Daffo died, challenging up from it earlier on. But the problem then is you've got Basetto going in solo to go and plant with no real cover, because remember, STK was holding on towards Pixel. You've got Live holding East Windows. Basetto has no one to cover the plant going down. They're always going to find themselves losing out in that situation. So I don't want to put all the blame on Daffo, but him going down without the team being anywhere nearby on the East Windows was probably mistake number one. Perez getting a little bit too eager and trying to peek on towards Nade without really needing to do so was the second mistake. And at that point, Loud don't have enough players to cover all the angles they need to get the round done. But that's all on Furia, to be fair. They're the ones willing to step out and challenge these angles. They're the ones willing to play aggressive and swing on towards that East Window rappel, for example. They're not making it easy for them, but you can see why if Loud are given too much room and too much space, they could have walked away and been 3-4 rounds up by now. But it's only on Furia's changed a little bit of aggression they're showing, changing up their tactics last minute, which they're walking away the winner.
The PSG Demos skin is getting some serious airtime on the Pro League games recently. I mean, it's absolutely fair. It's an absolute banger, as are all of them this time around. There's some absolute crackers in there. Definitely worth a look through those. But yeah, I've noticed the Demos one cropping up plenty of times. 2-2 on the scoreboard. We are then round 5 versus 5 at the minute. A minute into the round, and we don't have any deaths as of yet. We do have a little Demos track there. Nothing that STK could really do to chase his man down, but he does know they are somewhere over near the top of those red stairs.
Sure, I mean, it's the same as last time around, right? It's where they started before Live wandered on down and just absolutely slammed Leapok, who was ready to challenge him. Didn't even see the operator, just outright died. It was horrible. Now it's a case of trying to waste a little bit of time for Leapox, the man that we're speaking about. Again, his name has been on our lips an awful lot because he's the one who's really dragging his team through this. Of course, KZ not to be underappreciated, but the most mobile player across the map has been for Leapox so far. Kept himself very, very busy, made himself difficult to track down for the side of Loud, who in this round at least found themselves, once again, pretty effective on the drones. And now trying to get aggressive was KZ. He's been finished off for free. 2 players on this East Rappel, made it looking easy for them. Here comes the second one, though, for Leapox. He was thinking about it, but instead opts to drop away. A great C4, but no, it's been shot out. They knew what was coming.
Bit of a mistake from Casey, I've got to say there. I don't think he really needs to get that aggressive. His presence inside of Cocktail stops them really doing too much, and the site isn't up on the top floor, so from the east window, they're not really gaining much. It's not giving them any verticality, but they are well aware of everything Furia are doing. They prep, they're ready. Perez cuts down Nade. Live managed to find Herds. This could be another flawless round here. It's up to Felipox to try and prevent that happening. 1v5 ace is going to be required, and let me tell you, you don't see too many of those, especially not with a Monty still on the board. Manages to get one, prevents the flawless round at least. But I honestly think that's probably about as good as it's going to get for Felipox. He steps in to try and stop the plant, but Dafo's there, and Loud take themselves another round.
Just another beautifully orchestrated round there. And what I love is, again, it reads into the game plan from Furia. We had 2 players, Perez and STK, watching staircases. That's all their job was. It didn't matter what the current scoreline was, whether it was 5v5 or anything reduced from that. They just got themselves into spot and held positions. And when they got from the 5v4 to the 5v3 was because STK was sat on red stairs, unmoving, waiting for Felipox to come and challenge, gets a freebie. Perez sat on white stairs, exactly the same, is there to keep on applying pressure. Gets challenged, dies as we saw, but that was the trigger for the other 3 players that were focused on the execute to make their move. As soon as they see that a kill comes through and Felipox, or whoever it was that was left alive at the end, going for that challenge on towards those white stairs, immediately they're in and getting the diffuser down. It's like watching a machine in motion here, and I think even Furia are a little bit like, wow, I mean, we sit still and we get shot from angles that we're not even holding at the time. If we try and move and go for a flank, they've always got 2 players on the stairs watching us. It must feel like how a lot of teams probably felt like playing against Furia back when they were W7M. Because the first time I watched the old W7M team play this exact roster, I was like, it was like an Aemon Bank, and I was like, it feels like you're playing 10 versus 5. It didn't matter where you looked, they seemed to be coming out of the walls, they knew everything going on in the round. I think Furia feel exactly the same in this game. Nothing they do is working, and every step they take, there is a drone there watching them do it. Loud have really got them figured out today. It's beautiful to see.
I'd like to... You're exactly right, and you know, given the prowess of Loud's utility game, I'd maybe like, I know she's kind of out of the meta at the minute, but I'd like to see maybe Furia bring along a Soulless or something, you know, give a Vigil, you know, something that could just give them an edge against that drone game. Mozzie, you know, anything to try and just reduce
they tried the Mozzie, granted.
Yeah, the Mozzie didn't really do the job last round, but they've only given it one try, you know, they're only giving it one round, and I think maybe stick to it, or like I say, try the Soulless, try the Vigil. Just you got to do something to disrupt Loud's attacks, because right now, like you say, they are winning on the back of the intel.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes back to those bans again, right? We were speaking about the mirror and the castle. The castle, of course, locks off angles, forces the attackers to make a hell of a lot of noise to clear out those castle barricades. The mirror is like a safe haven. It makes good sites, great sites is the way that often, the way Demo used to describe it to me back in the day, and I still like the analogy that he was using at the time. It just gives you some very, very safe haven positions that Furia can play behind, sit behind a mirror window, be ready to challenge on towards angles, but that has been ripped away from them through these bans. Same with the Kivas being taken away. There is very little that impedes Furia. If they want an angle open to be able to challenge you on it, or if they want to be able to send a shield charging towards you, they're going to be able to do it. There is very little that they can do to stop it because of these bans that have come on through.
See the shield of Baseto charging around, vertical work being undertaken bang on time. However, we have a little bit of reverse vertical work going on as Felipox takes down Live with the Nitro. Good start for Furia, gets them their first, and you heard me right there, Des, that is their first entry kill.
Tells you enough, right? Tells you where the onus and where the advantage
says
has been.
It all, doesn't it?
In the majority of these rounds, yeah, it's been really hard for them to be able to get anything going. Furious, so to actually have the entry for once must feel like a bit of a breath of fresh air. Now, it's just a 2v1 coming on through. He's got in hand. Silver comes the Nitro. No, it's a headshot on top. That's more. It's like what you come to expect from Herds and from the rest of Furia. They have completely shut down round 6. But a 3-3 half, I'd say, FURIA are getting away with this one with their necks still intact. It could have been far worse. Daffo finding at least one more, but he doesn't close out the whole half here. No way.
Yeah, beautiful double from Herds. Really broke the back of this one and left FURIA in the driving seat. They've got the diffuser down cold as well. So Daffo, at the minute, I'm afraid you don't have much going for you in this one, mate. 1v4, no diffuser. JV92 on a jump out, manages to find the kill. Gonna go out of Pillow's window to do it. There you go. And that is going to be FURIA closing out a 3-3 half. It's a bit of a funny one, really, because Cafe, in general terms, I always feel like the attackers can have a good day on Cafe. And I think FURIA will do that. But I don't know, I just... A loud side that have come in and showed that they were well prepared for this map. When you then put them on the defence, you think, well, that's the side you can really plan for. That's the one you can be really prepared for. So I'm kind of expecting big things out aloud on this second half.
Yeah, the defense is where I start to worry a little bit, because you tend to find top teams where they really make a difference is less so on their defensive side. That's already pretty good to begin with. It's on the attacking side when things really start to shine. And so FURIA here coming in themselves, sure. Louder come in with some game plan. They've been countered, let's be honest with you, because they really expected to go to Lair in this series. The fact that we're here on Cafe means they might not have prepared anything for Loud specifically. So I'm looking at this and thinking, is there a chance here that we're going to see FURIA completely like fail and struggle? Or are they coming in here and they're just that good a team that they're going to be able to roll Loud on the attacking side? I don't know. But once again, Loud are not going to be sitting here waiting to get beat. They'll have their own ideas on how to deal with the kind of attacks that FURIA show on this map. This is going to be really interesting.
Top floor is where we will begin. Next two rounds, I think, are probably going to be pretty game defining. I think if one of these two teams can take both of them, they will go on to win the whole thing. If it's one apiece, then I think we are screaming towards overtime, to be honest, if neither of them can get an advantage. But let's see what Loud can bring on the attack. Just having a look across their lineup, they've got, it's all pretty standard, really. They've got the mirror, they've got the mute to no doubt try and help protect the mirrors and make sure that the windows can remain intact as much as possible. We've got a Twitch on the other side, of course, so just trying to prevent that drone being able to get anywhere near them. They've got the Malusi just to try to slow down any, potential rushes coming in from FURIA, which isn't going to be the case this time, but just prevents them having not banned out those aggressive shields like Blitz and Blackbeard. It prevents maybe them being used in that way.
Alrighty, let's see how things play out from here. Got ourselves two players over on this east side of the map to begin things out, starting to exert pressure onto those players in Cocktail and other areas around that top floor. Of course, the main reason why you see the east windows being so strongly focused is they control a lot of the map. It's not just Cocktail. You have defenders that, of course, if they're playing in Bar, for example, can't comfortably rotate their way through that part of the map. They could drop down into Pillage, you might say, but there could be a player on Snow Door. You just don't know. The other side of it is you have good control towards storage itself, assuming, of course, reinforcements haven't gone down there. It just gives you a lot of control and a lot of ability to restrict what defenders can do, especially when you've got other players trying to work their way in through red, like KZ is doing here. So it's a very, very good and concrete way to clear out this top floor of the map, which we can see right now. There are 3 blue outlines up here that need to be dealt with.
3 out of 4 track stingers going to be applied to red stairs, so FURIA are having absolutely none of any potential flanks coming up there, knowing that any defender wanting to move that way will have to be shooting for an awful long time. Probably going to take at least 10 shots to clear a path, if not more, through that space. So, for the time being, Loud are pretty well dug in. FURIA, as of yet, haven't been able to dislodge them. They've got themselves well established. Need to be careful here. Long angle being held by KZ. Cannot find his man, though, and I think those warning shots will be all that Loud need to know that they need to keep themselves behind cover.
Sure. Keep an eye on these drones, mind you, Tim, because don't forget, Loud were absolutely solid with them back in their first half. They had so much intel all the time. FURIA now have no drones left. They are raw dogging the hell out of this round. They've got to try and make this work now without any extra info. And here we go. Perez gets one back, but this Claymore comes back the other way, down to a 4 versus 4.
Jevy's in a position to plant, but Live is underneath at the moment. KZ does manage to find STK. Live is going to be challenged at the same time. Can they go for the plant again? Surely they can, yes. JV goes in there. He's going to give it another whirl. He's moved his position, and he will be not successful. No, he's back to where he's going to get the kill onto Daffo, and he's going to relocate for another time. Third plant spot attempt, but Seto could play spoiler. I don't think he knows exactly where it's going down, though, and Furia will be successful with the plant.
Yeah, tucked into the bottom right corner there at bar, a spot that's really hard to deal with unless you've got the downstairs control, which they did kind of have. It was a risk being taken by JV, but it's gotten the kills they need, and 2 quick kills follow through as both Live and Basetto double up together, try their best to get control of Cocktail, but that brick wall that is Felipox is stood there ready and waiting, and Furia get the first round. A really interesting round overall there, because one or two of those C4s connect a little bit differently for Loud. We're having a very different conversation right now.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great attempt from them to play that vertical denial. It's never easily achieved, I think, on that top floor. Coming into it, I said it, it's their first choice site. Should it be? Should it be? I'm not too sure. I always argue against that top floor site. It doesn't ever keep a consistently high win rate for defenders. Loud have paid the price there by losing out in that first round. Furia managing to get themselves one of the 2 key rounds that I said, round 7, round 8. If either of these teams can win both, I think they'd probably go on to win the game at that point. So if Furia can manage to get this one won, if they can attack successfully onto Kitchen, or is it mining? I think it's mining, actually, that one. Just working off the silhouette.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
There we go. So yeah, if they can successfully attack onto mining, take over that top floor, push the defenders out of sight, they can use the external window as well. It's one of the few sites that's got external windows into both bomb sites. They could well just be setting themselves a really good foundation here, Furia. I like what they did last time around. They were in full command of that round. Loud, as much as they tried, Furia, like I said, they were just on top of it. As soon as the Nitro was going to come out, JV was relocated. They had challenges going on to those players underneath, so they couldn't focus on what they were doing. Just really nice stuff.
Well, here we go. Snowdoor pressure starting to come on through. We spoke about this a little bit in the last round when you have a player on that east rappel. There's always that threat of someone being on Snowdoor to stop you safely dropping down into pillars. And sure enough here, it's JV looking to carry out that job, and his teammates will be doing a little bit of work elsewhere around the map. Always that classic hunt across that top floor is the main thing you're looking out for, but you look at the bottom left corner of your screen, you can only see there's a couple of players dancing around here, so not a substantial amount right now. Already we've got ourselves inside as Hertz has come on flying through, and Perez, who cares about who's coming from lower white or upper white? He has deleted 2 separate players there. What a spot he's in, and what a fantastic couple of headshots he's landed.
Yeah, big mistake from Furia, I think, at that point. Perez gets another 2. I was going to say he'd been a little bit quiet since that 6 kills in the first 2 rounds, but he's just showed that the first 2 rounds of each half are maybe just where his sweet spot lies, where he really operates the best. Huge 4K when his team needs it. Levels things out across 7 and 8. I said if it went 1 apiece, I think we could be heading for overtime. And honestly, I think that's what we might see between these 2. This is another beautiful game. We had one in the last matchup with Black Dragons and W7M, and we're being treated to even more great action in this one.
You know what I really love most? Like that's one of them plays that you just can't plan for. Like there's nothing you can do there. When you've got Lion Scan going off, Dokkaebi phone call coming through, they could have layered on the Deimos if they wanted to, but they knew exactly where the player was. They didn't really need it. They could have done they did all this stuff right to make sure Perez was dead to rights on white stairs. But because there was a half a second difference, literally half a second between Herds getting in through the window and KZ stepping up for the challenge from lower white, Perez was able to get the isolated kill on KZ and then turn around and get rid of the Blackbeard straight after. Even the best team in the world makes mistakes when it comes to timing, and that's why you saw Herds kind of very frantically spraying in this position, knowing that he had a slither of a second to be able to capitalize on Perez being distracted by KZ, but didn't manage to walk away with the kill, which is such a shame. And you're relying on that white player being dead if you're players like Felipox and JV here. They've stepped forward to try and get a 2v1 onto him as well, but he's isolated out 2 separate 1v1s. He's got a 4K in that round. Some would call that a life round. Furia have tried to do everything right and still come away the loser. And these are the rounds that I love looking at, because the ones where I'd sit there and say, yeah, it looks like Perez has gone nuts, and Furia, you'll be looking at it going, why the hell have they done that? Like, how have they managed to muck that up so bad? They've literally done their very, very best, and I'd challenge most teams around the world to be able to pull off a play like that as well. But they've still been shut down because Perez has just had a life round, as they call it. He'll have other fantastic life rounds, I'm sure, but that's one of them rounds that he'll look back on and say, yeah, I just absolutely deleted Furia there. Beautiful stuff.
I'm still waiting for my life round, Des.
Mate, your life round is every round that you get in, you hold down F and you get out alive.
I've not had my life round yet. Maybe one day. A little bit of movement up on that top floor. SDK on the shotgun, so he's going to be great at these close range encounters, but the utility is being thrown in towards him. We've got smokes, we've got fire arrows, we've got
shotgun
very aggressive play from KZ on the Deimos, trying to flip between the shotgun and the Vendetta. Does manage to find the opener onto Dafo. Hertz doubles down with one onto who else would you want, but manages to find Perez. And this is why you bring the shotgun. If you can guarantee you're going to have close range encounters, you are going to come out on top. KZ making it a triple, and he's going to track the last.
Beautiful stuff. I mean, again, another set-piece play coming out from FURIA, but this time round, it actually works, Tim. It's the critical one. All that Capital util being dumped onto White Stairs. They can't push on towards White Corridor from Lumber. They can't come up from below. KZ repels in, straight in towards Battering to try and isolate out some kills and fights at the back of that one. And he walks away with, what, 4 kills for himself come the end of that round? Just another one of those where you look at it again and just say, well, what the hell are Loud doing? Unfortunately, because people are in slightly different places at slightly the wrong time, the whole round can fall apart like dominoes. It really is like individual players here popping off, finding the right opportunity to do so, and the other side just having to deal with the consequences.
Blackbeard will be our ban for round 4. Loud will also take a timeout at the same time, give them an opportunity to discuss the impact of that Blackbeard ban and exactly how they're going to use it. I would expect you know, they've got a plan in place, but it was an interesting one because after that round, you think, well, do you take the Deimos? Do you take the Blackbeard? What do you do? And it's a little bit of a pocket play coming out of FURIA, but KZ just absolutely phenomenal on that Deimos with the shotgun and the Vendetta, picking up kills with two kills with both. Fantastic stuff. Brilliant 4K when his team needed it, and leaving that in the pocket of FURIA when they maybe just need a big round and they can bring along the Deimos. It's a bit of a gamble.
What I love was so smart about it was the fact that also when all this kicked off and he managed to get himself in towards Lumber and was safe in there, they probably knew that as soon as the smoke and the fire like expired from the Capital, there was going to be a couple of players on the side of Loud that fancied retaking that top floor and trying to be a nuisance because they realized that off the back of all this intel, there had to be a play getting made somewhere and it probably was going to happen from above. So they did the right thing. They wanted to come and retake that top floor. But that is why the Deimos shotgun is so damn deadly. He just waited on White Stairs, got the 1 kill, then a second player came, domed them as well. That was his 3 for the round. Like, they're just reading into each other so well right now, both teams are. And again, these hero players are finding the moments and the gaps in the rounds to really expose them and blow things wide open. It's a beautiful game of Siege to watch.
Right then, let's get into it. FURIA have an opportunity to get themselves on to match point. Going to be attacking into the bottom floor, going to be Kitchen. And looking at the lineup, they've got the sledge in hand, so they're going to be looking for that mid-floor control. Capitao Grim, there's a lot of utility for them to use here. Loud need to make sure, I think first and foremost, that they're not losing bodies in the early round, in the first couple of minutes, because they're going to need them. I would imagine FURIA are going to be pushing them around. They're going to be moving them out of position, so they need to make sure when they do that they're not being cut down or there's other people can rotate around to cover those lines of sight that will open up because they have to move.
Well, let's see what changes in this round then, because it has been pretty neck and neck between the two, but it is still FURIA that are up 5-4. And again, the big narrative I don't want to disappear after this game is, you know, Loud made a big mistake going to Cafe. Why would they go there? It's their worst map. They've come in with a game plan today and played it exceedingly well. Really, really well. But it has been the occasional round that's gone against them, occasional mistake from them, the occasional opportunity found by FURIA that is why things stand as they are, and it could still all go even in this round. Get yourselves focused up there quite quickly here as well. JV's in with only about 60 seconds into the round, and trying to chew this hatch open up. Of course, it's currently electrified away, so you pop those Kairos around the outside of the hatch, and it still does the job of getting yourself chewed through, or better yet, catches out that Electroclaw altogether.
Yeah, it's just got to do a certain percentage of damage to the hatch, essentially. There you go, he's just found the Electroclaw, and that will allow him now to pop 4 pellets on there and get it opened up. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Des. I think, you know, either way, at this point, we questioned that choice of Cafe, said, you know, if they get embarrassed here, we might be asking questions, but certainly not. They have come in here showing that, you know, it might have been a perma ban for us, but not anymore. I'm sure there's lots of teams that will see Loud playing here and think, you know, we don't really want a piece of that. We'll take them somewhere else, because they have been very, very solid so far. We're going to have bees sent into court check just to prevent any little peaks coming out of there. They know that there's somebody located inside of there now, so they can just hold that vertical and make
Watch
sure
out for the nades.
nobody can push.
It's the nades in the back
into
pocket of Fury because they know that these players are all locked in certain positions. They need nades and utility to force them to move. Otherwise, Loud don't need to move. It's why we're down to the last 45 and they've had 2 or 3 players drop from that top floor down to the base or onto the ground level because they need to make people move. They've largely just sat there and gone, oh, you've got verticals open. We don't care. You can't see us from there. They've not really been under threat. So now they're starting to make their motions happen. It does mean that Loud aren't 100% aware which ones have been cleared out and which haven't. It is criminal that Basetto is still alive here. How has he managed to get away with this? Ran out of the fire, gets rid of KZ, an uncharacteristic mistake by Fury, and now leads them down a man.
Yeah, Dafo's been downed, so we're effectively 4 versus 4 at the minute. I think he might be collected, but JV manages to find Basetto live onto Felipox, so it bounces back and forward again, but Furia have to make a move. They have to make something happen. They need to get this diffuser down. 3 seconds left to go. Is JV going to be in a position to do it? Yes, he will start planting, but surely Loud may well be able to find him and stop it happening. They do exactly that, and Loud take us back to 5-5.
Oh, that's just such a killer. If I were actually, it's not even a killer. It's a beautiful set piece play by Loud yet again, this time in the post plant. And what really impressed me was the pace at which they did this. Live had been completely ignored inside of prep. How on earth he has survived this bombardment of fire and players pushing in through bakery, I don't know. But he was alive inside of prep. You've got JV planting just inside the breach, in through the double wall, in behind the little like sushi counter that's established. And he's got Herds in red corridor, who's watching onto where they know that Live is inside of prep. Like, okay, if he comes, we're dead. We saw it on our screen at the very end. Who was it that challenged on towards Herds? It was Perez inside of Coates. So Herds in that moment can't cover JV's plant going down. Live steps in, gets a freebie on towards JV, and then between him and Perez, they finish off Herds as well. That is such a micro moment there of a little bit of team play that has got the round win over the line. I can only imagine how quickly and how clearly they have to communicate what the game plan is to make that happen. Again, a wonderful round by Loud. Great idea from Furia as well, acknowledging at 45 seconds that vertical control was not going to be their friend in that round. They changed things up. They almost got away with it, but a couple of mistakes, like letting Basetto get out of the fire, for example, gave up a couple of free kills. Loud have just played like a game of chess there. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I was surprised at the Basetto kill, given that KZ, they knew that he was there because they'd been putting the fire in, and so they know there's a threat from Bakery Counter, and then KZ
well,
just
you know why? They couldn't step out for
the...
They couldn't challenge him as he moved from the fire because a smoke canister had been dropped by Live onto the double door, so they couldn't see what Basetto was doing. Again, it's a game of chess. Both teams are so at each other right now. Everything is thought about and calculated. This might be one of the favorite games of Cafe I think I've ever watched. It's been so good.
It is, it's brilliant. Live has managed to pick up Herds, and what a loss that could be for Furia. The Grim has been taken off the board, and Grim always going to be a big part of clearances or executions, one or the other, because the Bees are going to go in, and they're going to, again, disrupt defenders, force them to move because they're being tracked out, and losing that utility right off the bat is a big loss for Furia. They do still have the Brava, which is something at least, but in all honesty, what are you stealing of great value? You could take maybe an ADS, maybe a Magnet. It's not like getting a Maestro camera. It's not like getting a bulletproof camera.
Well, it is like getting one thing. That's exactly what they just snagged away. Look back at the map we played in Cafe earlier and how much of a nuisance that bulletproof camera proved to be. There was nothing they could do about it except look at it and be like, oh, we step in towards piano, we're dead. So although it doesn't feel like an awful lot there, I honestly think they might have just brought the Brava along exclusively to get rid of that bulletproof without having to worry about bringing along Zophias and things like that to try and fight through, I don't know, well, my magnets and ADSs. Instead, they can just hack it away. Job done.
I hope they did, because otherwise they haven't got a fantastic amount of value out of that Brava draw and out of the pick. But
well, they've got rid of it now. That's the important part. And they've got 2 smokes in back pocket to plant with.
Exactly. Perez does manage to find himself down, so he's going to be in barback storage, unlikely to be collected, I would expect. We're just going to have a little bit of a stalemate at the minute as we see the track stingers move in. Nade not yet in a position to start putting that plant down. STK finds JV92, but KZ for Leapox, 1 apiece, leaves us now effectively in a 2v3. Loud are clinging on at the minute. A lot of damage being done from underneath, but look at that for Leapox. He gets taken out by a laser gate. Not too often that we see that one. There's Ned with a double, and this just flip-flops until KZ is able to find the final kill, and Furia head on to 6. They will get a chance to close out a full 3 3 points.
Yeah, death to a laser gate is a new one. I don't remember the last time I've seen that, if ever, to be honest. Have you? Can you remember?
I'm not sure that we have. It's
I want to say years ago I saw one when it was down towards the back end of a round and they had no drones, no way of getting rid of the laser gates, so just ran through it and killed themselves. Like, well, I need to get through here and I can't, so whatever, let's just end the round now. But that certainly we don't think was the intent there coming out from Felipox. I don't think he expected to die there. In fact, again, I've just watched it back on my other screen, and he stepped back into the top of Cocktail's laser gate. So I don't think he even intended to touch it, but obviously has done so completely accidentally and died for it. Brilliant.
You just imagine the shock as well, as you just die and you're like, what? What's killed me? And then you look and you think, oh god.
Very good.
We all have those moments, even the greats like Felipox. Right, on we go then. Could be our last round, could be just the start of this one. Loud are going to be defending mining this time. FURIA have been pretty solid on the attack so far. 3 out of 5 have been successful, but how's about this for a stat? So far in this game, out of 11 rounds, FURIA have only had 2 opening kills. They have gone on to win both of those rounds, so whether you want to read into that or not is up to you, but we will see what happens at the start of this round, because it has been so predominantly Loud that have been absolutely dictating the pace with those opening kills. It's almost unbelievable.
Completely agree. I mean, it says more about FURIA than it does Loud. I mean, one, it says a lot of things about Loud that they've got the majority of entries, but it also says a lot about FURIA that they can come back to win rounds where they don't get the entry. I really don't know which way this round's going to go now. Again, I would happily see this go to overtime. It has been such a brilliant game between the two, but I'm at a point where I'm just like, I don't know who's going to win round to round, because both teams have been throwing literal haymakers at each other. So who walks away the winner now? Well, we're about to find out, of course, in the next couple of minutes or so. There's early work being done from FURIA on that droning side of things again, just to make sure they've at least got information on where these players on the side of Loud might be. Somewhat impeded by Live, who, as you can see, is standing up here now on the Mozzie. Trey coming back in as Nade's the first to fall. Felipox, though, right there with the response.
Yep, going to level things up at 4 versus 4. They know that they're established on White Stairs, but an interesting point to bring the clash at this last gasp attempt at defense as well. We often talk about the Monty and the clash being brought along as, dare I say it, a bit of a desperation pick, a bit of a Hail Mary to try and get it over the line, to try and battle in from the behind of, but we'll see how much impact it has. 1 minute 30. A lot of vertical work going on directly above the site at the minute. We've seen attempts at nitros that have failed. 4 versus 4. Loud feel like they're just clinging on with the fingertips right now.
If you're watching this as well and looking at that Amaro saying, what was the point in that? It's gone and died straight away. That was kind of the goal. It was a trade kill, right? Nade has flown in towards the east window inside a Cocktail, taken the eyes from Dapo to look at him, and at exactly the same time, Felipox has dropped in. It's not Felipox, sorry. No, it's Felipox. Has dropped into Bar from Skylight and then gone for the exact trade straight down on towards the player at top Cocktail. So, yes, they've traded a player, but it's not the end of the world. They weren't looking at this as a reason to plant or any of that kind of madness on this mining fireplace site. It was all about securing the top floor, and this is why for the last 60 seconds or so you've seen them with full and free control of this top floor to do whatever they please, because they've broken the back line of that vertical hold very, very quickly. I spoke earlier about the importance of Cocktail. That being gone, there's nothing else really for Loud to hold on to upstairs except maybe try for retake, but they've instead backed away, and now they're going to try and play in behind the clash to get this done.
Feels like FURIA are just stalling out a little bit, but maybe that kill will be the catalyst. KZ manages to find his way down red. However, Loud have got 2, JV92 with 1, and just like the rest of the game, Des, this is back and forth. How does JV92 do it? He's got no business getting that kill onto Passetto. No business at all. KZ finds the final kill onto Perez, who downed one of them in the 1v2. He did so much for his team on Cafe, but he couldn't do it when it mattered most. FURIA take the win, and Liquid, their hopes are still alive with Loud not getting the win.